up guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm super happy that you're here. If you're new, my name is Tay. I am a homeschooling, homemaking mama of 4. And today I've got my drink, I've got snacks, I've got my iPad for my notes, and we are gonna be diving into I'm really considering this the prequel to my 1% Better series, but this is the beginning or part 1 of my 1% Better series that's all about my takeaways from reading Atomic Habits. So let's dive into it. Now, back in December, I gathered a few moms together to really just kind of have like a coffee date to talk about content creating and our goals for, 2023 and all of that stuff. And in that process, we all talked about how we really had a lot of like personal development goals as well. And I think one of us brought up like reading books and stuff, and we basically like on a whim were like, we should start a book club. And so we did. So our first book that we read in January was Atomic Habits. Now, I don't know about everyone else, but this was my first time reading the book. I've had it sitting on my shelves for 3 or 4 years now, and I always started it, probably got through the first chapter, and then life got in the way and I didn't prioritize it. But this year I was like, we're a part of the book club. It's gonna hold me accountable. They did a phenomenal job of keeping all of us accountable. The majority of us finished it, but we got to discuss it. We made a pact that at the end of each month we would go and discuss the book that we read, and it was phenomenal. As I was going through the chapters, I was realizing that this book really did hold the potential to change my life if I was willing to implement all of the teachings and stick with it. Now, thankfully for me, James Clear even went into detail about what to do when you screw up and fall short and how to bounce back. So really at that point, there was no excuses left for me to be like, well, I didn't stay consistent with it. I didn't do all the things that I was supposed to. He covered that in one of the chapters and was like, this is how you get back up. So it was kind of just the right thing that I needed at the halfway point of even reading it and trying to decide if I wanted to start implementing these things. And now that we are at the end of February and heading into March, and I'm turning 30 next month, there's just a lot of things that have really incentivized me to want to implement these teachings. I loved the book. I thought it was phenomenal. I know a lot of things are reiterated and we've heard them before, but I really felt there was something about the way that he set you up. If you are willing to take it a step further and not rely on someone else to give you the baby steps of how to start implementing it, that's what's going to determine the people that become successful with their habits versus the people that just read the book, say it was good, and then move on with their lives. Which, no hate to those people, I think a lot of us really have that desire to move forward, but I think with the way that the world works, because there's so many people out there that are creating things for you to have like a step-by-step guide to walk you through things, we've become almost dependent on that and expect it. So when we have to do it ourselves, a lot of us get lazy and fall back into that like comfort zone and don't want to do that. So I guess even with me sharing this series, I'm kind of creating those baby steps for other people, but you know what? I just want to thrive. I want to share the process, and if this helps other people that maybe don't have that in them just yet, I am here for it. I want to support you. I want you to succeed. We're in it together. So let's dive into a little bit more of the specific takeaways that I got from the first 2 chapters, and then we'll go into details about how I'm implementing that into my own personal life. Okay, so if you see me looking down, I'm reading my notes because I obviously don't have everything that he said memorized, but I wanted to try and be specific with some of the things that really stood out to me, and I don't want to paraphrase the things that he said. I wanted to give you direct quotes. So in chapter 2, because the first chapter is kind of just the introduction to everything, what atomic habits are, why you should, implement them, all that stuff. So chapter 2 is really where you get into like more detail about like what to do and why we're doing this whole thing. He said, changing our habits is challenging for 2 reasons. 1, we try to change the wrong thing, and 2, we try to change our habits in the wrong way. There are 3 layers of behavior change: a change in your outcomes, a change in your processes, or a change in your identity. When it comes to building a system of 1% improvements, the problem is not that one level is better or worse than another. The problem is the direction of change. Many people begin the process of changing their habits by focusing on what they want to achieve. This leads to outcome-based habits. The alternative is to build identity-based habits. With this approach, we start by focusing on who we wish to become. Now at this point, he really starts diving into identity-based habits, and he's explaining it's not really about the specific, like, I want to have a 6-pack, I want to buy a house. It's none of those things. It's an identity that you take on for yourself. We are multifaceted humans, and you're creating these habits that more so add to the multidimensional person that you already are. Now, maybe there are certain facets to who you are that you're trying to take away and you don't like them, and so you're trying to replace them with something better. But everything is rooted in identity. Now, this was kind of difficult for me because the thing was that trying to get a picture of who I am, how I see myself, and that is where I feel like I hit a brick wall. Now, he goes on to say that it's hard to change your habits if you never change the underlying beliefs that led to your past behavior. You have a new goal, a new plan, but you haven't changed who you are. Reading that second line, it's hard to change your habits if you never change the underlying beliefs that led to your past behavior. That hit different because, like I said, as I started to assess my own identity, the way that I see myself, I know I have insecurities. I know I don't like who I am. While this isn't a therapeutic book to walk you through your childhood trauma, I've already been aware of it with things that I've gone through in the past few years. But the biggest thing is that I know that I'm not kind to myself. And so I realized as I continued reading this that if I want to set a new identity for myself, I need to take steps before I get to this point to be able to love myself truly. Now, we'll get back to that in a sec. Now he goes on to say the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. The more pride you have in a particular aspect of your identity, the more motivated you will be to maintain the habits associated with it. Your behaviors are usually a reflection of your identity. What you do is an indication of the type of person you believe that you are, either consciously or non-consciously. And a lot of the behaviors that I have currently are a reflection of who I believe that I am. And when I have to really pull everything back and look at it for what it is, I'm very aware that I think very little of myself. And so I don't want to continue carrying myself that way, not just because of these revelations, but because I have children that I'm supposed to be modeling for. And I have a husband who is looking for support from me. Like, I have other people that rely on me. And on top of that, I want to be better for my family, for my kids, for myself, but also other people. I want to make an impact. I want to influence people in a positive way. And I can't do that if I'm constantly beating myself up. If you've never heard of Dr. Caroline Leaf, she is a neuroscientist. I absolutely love her. I saw an interview that she did with Stephen Furtick one time, and I just kind of really dove into all of her content after that. And I got one of her books, I think it's called Clean Up Your Mental Mess, something like that. But that is on my list of one of the books that I want to reread. I got through the first part of it, which was all the science study and breakdown of rewiring your brain. And so I know that with dealing with trauma and everything else in our lives, we need help in that. And so that's one of my books that I plan on reading next quarter. And I really want to implement that to be able to physically rewire connections in my brain to really help solidify this shift that I'm trying to create with my perspective of myself. So if you saw the series I created on TikTok, I have a 1% Better series that I'm doing on there. It's kind of walking through the small daily steps that I'm taking. I'm gonna be sharing more of that over there, as well as continuing a kind of a monthly update on here with this 1% Better series. So you can follow along in both places. There's gonna be a different variety of how I share this thing. But on that first video that I created, I kind of explained that I grew up with no understanding of makeup, how to do my makeup, what I was looking for, what things were used for what. It was an extremely confusing thing for me. So I thankfully, with playing water polo throughout high school, I was always in and out of a pool, so I wore very minimal makeup to begin with. I was more concerned with catching up on homework that I didn't do the night before and trying to get across the street to eat something before school started, or have something before practice, or get something after practice ended. I was always hungry, constantly working out. And so makeup never really took a priority for me. So it made it kind of simple to just have that as an excuse of oh, I play water polo, I'm in the pool all the time. I don't really use it and stuff. But there were other girls that would prioritize that. And a part of me was kind of envious of that, because at least they knew what they were doing. When I would see them and just be like, dang, I wish that I knew, but at the same time, I was so insecure already that I had no desire to be brave or courageous and take that step to ask for help. And it wasn't until recently that I decided, you know what, I've got a daughter of my own now, and I don't want to make the same mistake that my mother did with me of not teaching me the things that a girl needs to know. And so I humbled myself and I went to Sephora and I asked for help. And I got a few products and tried them out, and I'm gonna go back again and get a few more products and just see kind of like what I need. And these are just baby steps that I'm trying to take. They may seem silly to other people, but the things that I'm doing, I'm trying to put things in place that it kind of helps me put my shoulders back and be proud of who I am, take pride in who I am, and encourage myself to take better care of myself, because I am worthy of being taken care of. And it just even saying that out loud feels uncomfortable for me. But I've realized that even with sharing that first video on TikTok, there's a lot of people that related, and it broke my heart. And so I feel really compelled to be sharing all of this here as well, this whole journey, this whole process, because if people related to me so much on something as simple as like, I don't know what I'm doing with my makeup and I'm almost 30, or I'm in my 30s or whatever, I can only imagine everything else that I'm going through. There must be other people out there that relate to that as well. And so while it is this like heart-wrenching feeling, and I hate that I share something like that in common with so many other people, I don't want other people to feel this way that I do. I also feel like maybe I can make an impact by sharing the things that I am doing to help myself get out of this and find different ways to have confidence in who I am. In the last part of the chapter, he goes on to say, progress requires unlearning. Becoming the best version of yourself requires you to continually edit your beliefs and to upgrade and expand your identity. This brings us to an important question. If your beliefs and worldview play such an important role in your behavior, where do they come from in the first place? How exactly is your identity formed? And how can you emphasize new aspects of your identity that serve you and gradually erase the pieces that hindered you? Whatever your identity is right now, you only believe it because you have proof of it. New identities require new evidence. So, 1, decide the type of person you want to be. What do you want to stand for? What are your principles and values? Who do you wish to become? And then 2, prove it to yourself with small wins. Once you have a handle on the type of person you want to be, you can begin to take small steps to reinforce your desired identity. This is the 1% better. So with all of that said, I recognize that there's a lot of unlearning I need to do. Honestly, I've spent years trying to find the quick and easy ways to accomplish this, and it's never worked. And so now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, okay, God, I hear you. I'm gonna be patient. We will do it in your timing. We will take it slow. And that's what I wanna do. So my plan is to have monthly catch-ups with you guys to be able to kind of fill you in on the process, as well as go, a chapter or 2 at a time, progressively going through the book with my takeaways as well. So it'll be a little bit of an update of like, here's where I am, these are the things that I'm doing, and you're kind of coming along with me in real time on TikTok as well to see the progress happening in real time. So there's a few things that I'm gonna share over there too. I did a little bit of shopping to kind of kick off this like new identity piece for myself to find some healing. And I want to say, I understand that, going and spending money isn't something that everyone has the luxury to do. And honestly, going and spending money might not be healing for people all the time. But for me, this wasn't just like a binge to throw cash out. It was being intentional with a budget that I set for myself and the things that I wanted to get. And so while it seems silly, there's little things like, these hoops I went to the Spectrum, got my products from Sephora, walked over there, told them like I had these other hoop earrings that I got from Made by Mary and I absolutely loved them, but the problem was that the clasp wasn't like clipping in properly and they were, falling out, and I just wanted to replace them and get something a little bit smaller, but I wanted chunky, and like I had an idea in mind, but style is something that I struggle with as well. I don't feel like I know what the heck I'm doing. And so now that's one of my goals for myself, to this prequel piece of it, to love myself and respect myself and give myself the attention and care that I need and deserve to have. I'm hoping that with this process that I'm able to share all of this and inspire someone else to get out of that funk too, because we are too mean to ourselves, and we are deserving of love and kindness and goodness. And I know the majority of people that relate to me on these things are good people that more likely than not pour out all of that goodness and kindness and love. Maybe even get sassy sometimes to correct other friends, to be like, do not talk to yourself that way. You are beautiful and everything else. This is me doing that for you to tell you, stop talking to yourself that way. You would never say those things that you say to yourself to a friend, and you would never allow them to say those things to themselves. So why are we allowing ourselves to do that to ourselves? Why are we allowing ourselves to get in front of a mirror or get in a dark place and tell ourselves all those awful things? It needs to stop. And I know, easier said than done, but this is the 1% Better series. I want to end on a happier note instead of being so serious. But I hope that you felt something in this video. I hope that something spoke to you. I hope that something encouraged you and inspired you. I hope that you follow along on TikTok for more of the daily steps that I'm taking. I'm gonna walk through some of the stuff that I got and share a little bit more in details and depth about those specific things. I will do more of that over there, and then we will do kind of a catch up each month and a recap and diving into the next few chapters and all that stuff over here. But all that to say, I love you guys. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next week.